Hey YouTube. Alright, so for today I'm just gonna answer the common question of how do you create groups on your server. So like if you see like people with the tag like moderator before their name or admin or builder or whatever, those are all what we call groups. Alright, so I'm just gonna go through that today. The first thing that you're gonna want to do is put this video into full screen mode, as you're not gonna be able to see the stuff that I'm typing if you do not. I basically put together a little like guide so that you can look at while I'm going through everything, because this is permissions were a really hard thing for me to grasp at first, but I think you guys should be alright after this tutorial. Alright, so basically, yeah, we should just go over what a group is. Basically, a group in a Minecraft Bukkit server, it's basically just a set of users who basically have specific attributes. So basically, like, they might have a specific color, and they're allowed to do certain things on your server. And usually, servers will have a few different groups, like an owner group, or builders, like for common people, or stuff like that, alright? So we're just gonna start off, and basically I'm gonna give you guys an example, basically with a wedding, alright? And you'll see how it falls into similarity, alright? So, we have 3 groups in our wedding, alright? We have the friends who are invited, the family, like just our relatives and our parents and all that stuff, and then our actual spouse, the person you're getting married to, alright? So, as I said, each group, each can do different things. Friends can do the least, the spouse can do the most, because, they are your spouse, so they should be most important to you. Alright, so we are going to rank these guys up here based on what they can do. So we're going to separate them based on what they can do, and we're going to define what they can do by giving them permissions. So we're going to basically give them permission to do something. Alright, and the friends are going to have the least permissions, or they're going to be able to, we're going to allow them to do the least amount of things, and we're going to allow the spouse to do the most amount of things. Should be making sense. 3 groups, spouse can do the most, friends can do the least. We're saying that the spouse can do the most by giving them the most of these things called permissions, by permitting them to do things, and permitting these guys to do the least, or giving them the least amount of permissions. Alright? So, now we're going to actually get into the permissions, alright? It's important to know kind of what permissions are if you're going to go into anything like computer science or anything, because websites use permissions, like Facebook uses permissions, software uses permissions, things like these Minecraft Bukkit servers use permissions, lots of things use permissions. Very important, alright? So anyways, we're gonna, I made up 5 example permissions, alright? We have wedding.talk, alright? And if we give this to any one of these groups here, they are going to be allowed to talk to the bride or the groom, alright? If we give any of them the wedding.hug, they are going to be allowed to hug the bride or the groom. If we give them wedding.kiss, then they can kiss the bride or the groom. And then so on. The planning.suggest, they can give suggestions for planning, and the planning.help, they can actually help in the planning process. Alright, so hope this makes sense so far. Alright, these are the 5 permissions we have. By giving these permissions to these groups, we are allowing these groups, right here, these 3 groups, to do different things. Alright, so now, we're going to assign these to the groups. Alright, so we have the friends, family, and spouse. These are the 3 groups. We're giving the friends the wedding.talk, which above, it means that they can talk to the spouse. Pretty obvious, they're not going to come and just not be able to talk to anyone, alright? The planning.suggest, they can give suggestions. They can only give suggestions. Alright? The family. As we had, they can also do the wedding.talk. They can also do the planning.suggest. But in addition to these 2 things that these guys have, they can also hug the bride or the groom. Alright? And they can also help in the planning. They can help in the setting things up and decorating it. Alright, the friends cannot do that because they don't have the permission to. Alright, whereas this permission right here, the one to actually help the setup, is given to the family, so the family can help. Makes sense, right? Alright, so then we have the spouse, and they're pretty much going to have everything, alright? So they can talk to each other, they can suggest things, obviously, it's their wedding, they can suggest things, they can hug each other, and they can help in the decorating if they feel like it, and then obviously they can kiss. That's what they would do at the wedding, alright? But they're the only ones who can kiss. As you notice, they're the only ones with this kiss permission. They're the only ones who are going to be allowed to kiss, alright? It makes pretty perfect sense, you know? I mean, I don't know how I could how I could break this down in a more simple way, alright? Now, I'm going to lay this out into basically what a permissions plugin, or scratch that, I'm going to basically lay this out in how it would look like in a Minecraft Bukkit server, alright? So now we have these same things right here, and we have these permissions, alright? Still have these, but notice how there's less of them. And that's because of this thing called inheritance, alright? This has absolutely no inheritance, and the reason it has absolutely no inheritance is because it is the lowest group, alright? The family, alright, instead of writing out these two things right here, and then also writing out these things, basically what we're saying is that it has all the permissions from friends, plus these permissions right here, alright? So basically they can do all four of these things, and we did not have to retype it over again, so it's really nice so you don't have to retype things. And then the spouse, instead of writing all the 5 permissions that we have, instead of writing all these permissions, we're basically going to say it inherits what the family has, alright? So it's going to inherit these permissions right here, and because the family inherits these two, the spouse is going to inherit all these permissions, alright? So that, it should make sense, alright? It has this permission in addition to everything that the spouse, this inheritance should say family. It has everything that the family has, alright? So that's pretty much that. And then now I'm gonna basically make this look exactly like a Minecraft permissions setup would be, alright? So you'd have this groups right here, friends, and then before the permissions you'd have permissions like this, the actual permissions, and then inheritance like we had before, alright? I do not know why I put this here twice. That would be family, inheriting everything from family. Alright, so notice how I have these 4 spaces here. Every permissions setup is different, but just notice how it's all lined up, alright? All the groups are on the same line as I go up and down. All the permissions are on the same line, and the inheritance is on the same line. Alright, just notice that, alright? This should be simple so far, alright? We have the groups, we have these permissions they are allowed that they have, and then we have the inheritance basically saying that it has all the stuff from below it, and in addition to the permissions that is given here, alright? So, I'll just give you a little definition. I already gave you this at the beginning. Alright, so yeah, the groups, they allow us to give the permissions, like we can also give them colors. Basically everything. We can control everything they can and cannot do on your server, alright? And then the common groups are like moderator, admin, owner, and builder. You can use those. I don't like to. I strive to be different from everyone else. And in this tutorial, we are actually not going to even use these groups. Alright, this is basically just, I gave a nice little detailed and nerdy, definition of what permissions are, alright? So permissions, we give them permissions to groups in order to give them access to certain plugins you have installed on your server, alright? This is the most important thing right here. We give them permissions so that they have access to certain plugins or the certain commands of your plugins that you have installed on your server, alright? Plugins usually have a list of their permissions. Like, notice how we have these 5 permissions somewhere up here. Yeah, we have these 5 permissions. permissions plugins will have they will have their permissions on their page if they actually have permissions. As I said, here most plugins have permissions today. Alright. Alright, so now we're gonna do a little bit of an example. This is an actual Minecraft example though, alright? So you have a plugin, it's called No Spam Plus. I'm hoping that plugin does not exist. If it does, credit goes to whoever made the plugin. I have no idea. I'm guessing here, alright? So yeah, just say you have this plugin installed on your server called No Spam Plus, alright? And it kicks you for spamming. Pretty obvious, alright? On that plugin's page, you see it has these following permissions, alright? So, it has no spam plus.type, which allows you to actually type something. The no spam plus.bypass commands, which allows you to, basically you won't get kicked if you're spamming commands. Then we have the no spam plus.bypass.chat, which is going to allow you to spam all the chat you want without getting kicked. And then we have the simple reload thing, which will reload the plugin if it's not working, alright? So now, I basically just set up the groups here. So we have a criminal group, a newbie group, a moderator group, and an owner group, alright? Permissions, the criminal has 0 permissions and it has 0 inheritance. Basically it can do literally nothing on our server. Alright? And then the newbie, it has this permission here with the no spam plus.talk. So basically the newbie is actually allowed to type something. It can actually interact with and type to other people on your server, alright? The moderator, we're giving them this right here, this no spam plus.bypass.commands, which allows them to spam all the commands that they want to, alright? And instead of also writing the no spam plus.talk, we can just give them inheritance, saying they inherit all that newbie has, and it has this. So that's in addition to this, instead of writing everything over again, alright? Then we move on to our owner, and they have no spam plus.bypass.chat. That's going to allow them to spam chat all they want to, alright? And instead of writing the bypass of commands and that they can talk, we just let them inherit everything that the moderator has, alright? So, I hope that sounds not too hard, alright? So, that being said, there are many permissions plugins out there that will handle your permissions and let you set up permissions on your server for different groups. I listed some here. There is probably a lot more out there. Some are more complex than other ones. PermissionsBukkit is probably the easiest out of all these. It's very simple, alright? And, I don't know, PEX is probably the one that would give you the most trouble. Although, it's serious, that one's not even that hard either. Alright? So, let's move on now. We're going to be using PermissionsBukkit in this tutorial. If you would like to see me do the tutorial for a different permissions plugin, that is fine. I will do another video. However, after you see how you set up permissions with PermissionsBukkit, you should be able to read over these other plugins and figure out how they work for yourself. Alright? Also, before you even start working with permissions, just download this plugin. It's called Vault. You don't need to, but if you're planning on using economy, like money that you pay for stuff or shops or giving like colors to different people, you're going to need this plugin, alright? You don't need to do any configuration. You don't need to change anything. Just drop it in your server plugins. Alright? Okay, so I'll put the link in the description to PermissionsBukkit, although you can pretty much find it yourself, alright? Also, quick note here. Setting up groups and giving permissions does not put colors and prefixes before names. That is not what permissions plugins and groups are for. You have to have a different chat plugin in order to do that. You can use Essentials Chat, Simple Chat, MChat Suite, Nuke Chat, BChat Permissions, Chat Manager. I don't know. There's so many more. Like, it's unbelievable how many there are today. All right. You just look up like chat on the Bukkit search, and then you'll find tons, and you can find out what works best for you, alright? That being said, alright, once you go ahead and download, or not download, the actually get PermissionsBukkit and then run it on your server, you're going to get this config.yml. When you open it, let me just maximize this and zoom in a little bit. You're going to get something like this, alright? Just a bunch of little notes up here. This all, you can just, you know what, might as well just go ahead and delete this, alright? Alright? I mean, you don't have, you can leave that if you want to, but it's just not useful for anything, alright? And now we're going to go ahead and create all of our own groups. Why don't we just go ahead and delete all this, alright? And then just leave the users the way it is. But here, okay, so we have this here, alright? First of all, we're going to create our group. So we're going to need to do this by doing 4 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, and typing the name of a group, alright? So I'm going to have a group called, as we had before, criminal. And we're going to put a colon, alright? And then we're going to make our other groups, same way, 4 spaces, newbie, oops, colon, 4 spaces, moderator, colon, 4 spaces, owner, colon. Alright? And now, what we're going to do is we're going to hit enter again, do 4 spaces, and then another 4 spaces, and we're going to type permissions, spelled exactly like this, colon, space, and then 2 little squares like this, the 2 little brackets, alright? Do the same thing for newbie. So actually 8 in total spaces there. Alright, we're just going to do this for every one of these. And then after we're done with this, we're going to go ahead and type another thing with 8 spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inheritance, just like we had before in our example. We're going to give this to every single one of these. 5, 6, 7, 8. Inheritance. Just going to go ahead and copy this. Alright. So now we're going to, before we actually get going into anything, I'm basically just going to, I'm going to, hold on. Oops. I thought there was something I was gonna... Alright, never mind. Okay. So, we're basically just gonna put in all of these, groups in here, alright? So, get rid of those brackets. 4 spaces. Or 8 spaces, my bad. And then, actually, no, just leave this in blank. Leave the brackets. Then inheritance for newbie, do the 8 spaces, exactly like what I just did, dash, and then we're going to put criminal, alright? It's going to inherit everything that criminal has. Now, right now, criminal has nothing, so it's really going to be inheriting nothing. But when we actually put some permissions in, it'll actually do something. Alright, inheritance, then we're going to put in newbie, it's going to have everything that newbie has, dash, space, newbie. It's going to have anything that newbie has, and then the owner, as you guessed it, it's going to have everything that moderator has. Alright? So that pretty much should make sense so far. Alright, now in order to actually gain some permissions, we're going to have to install a plugin that has permissions on our server. And I already took the liberty of doing that. I installed something called, just message of the day. Alright? Who is this made by? I'm going to give them some credit. Zerwakian, I don't know how to say their name, alright? So, pretty simple plugin, just a little example right here, alright? I'm actually not going to give them, give any of my groups any permissions at this moment. I keep opening the wrong thing. Alright, I'm not going to give them any permissions right now. Alright, I'm just going to leave everything the way it is. I'm going to go ahead and save this. And I'm going to enter the game. Alright? Which means we have to start up our server right now. Alright? Just wait for this to start up. And then, we are going to give some permissions, but right now I'm just going to show you what it's like when no one has any permissions to do anything. Alright, so let's just look at message of the day right now. One of the commands is /motd right here. Alright, I'm going to try to do that in game. Once we get all started up. We're going to see that it won't allow me to do the command. Just hold on. Just wait for it to start on up. You can use this plugin if you feel like it. I mean, this is honestly just an example, so you can use whatever you want to. No. Alright, so I'm going to type /motd. Alright, that command that I had. And we're going to see I do not have permission to do it. Alright, pretty basic. Alright, now notice if I talk or do whatever, my name hasn't changed. Groups don't, it doesn't change the color or any of that stuff. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and actually give myself permission so I can actually type that command, alright? So I'm going to go ahead and stop my server. Hold on, just wait for everything to just save on up, and then we'll go ahead and edit everything. Come on. Alright, this is taking too long. I think I'm just going to exit. Alright. Okay, so, plugins, back into PermissionsBukkit, and then into the config. Let me just zoom in on everything again. Alright. And now, since we have that plugin installed on our server, we'll go ahead and look up some of their permissions that they have. Hold on, let me just zoom in a little bit so we can see everything. Alright, permissions node, alright? So, we're going to give them this, the motd.motd.use, so I can actually type that command, alright? So I'm going to go ahead and copy this. And then in my permissions, I'm going to give this to my newbie. In order to do this, we're going to type the 8 spaces like we did before, then type 4 more spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm going to paste that right here, alright? And then do a colon, space, and just put true. For all these, you're pretty much going to want to put true, alright? So basically, we're just saying, like, that they have this permission, alright? So, now all we needed, if we were to go in game, I should be able to type that. However, let's go ahead and change this criminal group into default. Alright, we're gonna notice that whenever I join, that means when I join my server, I'm gonna be in this default group. Alright, and I'm gonna have no permissions. So at first, I'm not gonna be able to type this command. I'm gonna change my group into I'm gonna make myself a newbie, and then at that point, I'm going to be able to type the /motd command because I have the permission. As you see, this group, the newbie group, has this permission for that command. Alright? Makes sense. Alright? So I'm going to go ahead and save this up. X out of it. Alright? And start up my server again. Just wait for everything to get loaded up. Don't know how long this will take. Hold on, should be done soon, and yep, it's done. Just make sure that I am having no errors right here. I'm getting quite a bit of... I do not have permissions, alright? Now I'm gonna actually change my group. I'm gonna do perm, alright, space, set rank, space, item 69, and then the name of the group. I want to change myself to a newbie. Alright? And then it says I am now in the newbie group. Alright? So now I'm going to go ahead and type the command again. /motd. And we see it works perfectly. I can now type the command. Alright? Now, since our owner inherits this the moderator, and the moderator inherits newbie, I should be able to change myself to an owner group and successfully type the /motd command also. Alright? So I'm gonna go ahead and change this to owner. And now I am in the owner group. Alright? I should still be able, and I can still type it. But if I were moved down to the criminal group, or actually the default group now, I'd perm set rank item 69, and then default, I will not be able to type the command anymore. I do not have permission to do it. And we can do this with basically any other command and any other permission. There's descriptions of permissions on every single plugin that has permissions, actually. That it'll be easy to find. That's pretty much it for the permissions. That's basically how you permit people to do different things and deny people to do different things on your server. That's pretty much it. And then again, if you want to color your groups, totally different ballpark. You have to use some sort of chat manager. In addition to Vault, as I said earlier. And I mean, there are so many out there. If you really want me to go over some plugins to do that, I will, but I really don't think it's necessary. Alright, so if you guys have any questions, you can go ahead and leave a comment in the description, or not in the description, in the comment section below, or you can send me a private message, whatever works best for you. Alright, see you guys later.